nerds, what's up? I have a new video for you guys today. I'm going to be doing the tier ranking video. Today specifically, I'm going to be tier ranking all of the series that I've read. Now there are some stipulations to this in specific because clearly not all of the series have I read that I've actually finished. So if I have a book that I haven't read yet in a series that I intend to get to, then I did not include that series in this video. But if I read a book in a series and then went, I'm not continuing, that is in here. And then, of course, I would imagine that there are a few different series that I've read like way a long time ago that are not included in this because I literally forgot about them. But I did go through all of my Goodreads reads and tried to add anything that I do remember reading. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. You guys are going to see the wonderful screen recording. Let's start with some good ones. Okay, so here are all of the books, all of the series that I'm going to be talking about today. There are 52 of them, which I thought was fun because there are 52 weeks in a year, and I just thought that was interesting coincidence that that's the number of books that I have on here, or series. So starting with A Court of Thorns and Roses, I have finished this series. I've read all of them with the exception of A Court of Frost and Starlight, but like I don't count that in the series because we're just going to pretend it doesn't exist. I haven't read it yet. I do plan on it, but like not really a part of the series, you know? And my options here are phenomenal, pretty darn great, fun or good times, thank you, next, and throw it out. It was going to be throw it out the damn window, but I didn't want it to be super tiny. So I think I'm going to put A Court of Thorns and Roses with Feyre and Reese and all of the gang. I think I'm going to put it in... So here's the thing. The first book is only okay. The first book is only okay, and that's a whole 1/3 of the series. And I do have some issues with the ending. A Court of Mist and Fury, though, is like perfect. And if it was up to that book alone, it would be phenomenal. But I think I'm going to put the whole series in pretty darn great. Because although it is pretty darn great, it does have its flaws. And that there are certain things that could have been done better. Next up is American Gods. And this book... Yikes. I read this book for Little Book Owl's Little Book Club many moons ago, and it was not my favorite thing. Although, in audio format, the audiobook is great. So, like, if it was based on the audiobook itself, phenomenal, like the narration, but the book itself, I think is gonna be a thank you next. Like, I would never be interested in reading it again. I tried watching the show. It was also a mess. Like, I think the story is just a mess. So we're going to put it in thank you next. We also have Aurora Rising by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. We will get to their other series, Illuminate. I have many things to say about that one as well. But Aurora Rising, I had such high expectations. And reading it, they were just so not there. Everything felt cliche. Everything felt predictable. Everything just felt bleh. So I'm going to put it in thank you next also. Wow, we're really starting out with some negative things here. Maybe I should move to another one. Whatever. We're just going to go with it because we're here already. So Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. Also another yikes for me. It just is Harry Potter, but not as good. Like, I don't really understand why everyone likes this one. And it's like, all I wanted to do was read Harry Potter when I was reading it instead of this book. I'm gonna put it on throw it out. That's how much I didn't like it. I'm sorry. But moving to Clockwork Angel by Cassie Clare, this is the Infernal Devices. So these are the books that take place like in the late 1800s, I think. We have Tessa Gray and Will and Jem, and honestly, I freaking loved the love triangle in this book. I feel like it was so like interesting. Just the love between Jem and Will also made it interesting. I really wish they were just a throuple, but like we can't have it all, and it's really great. I'm gonna put it in fun good times because nothing specifically comes to mind. Like the details of this series are really murky for me, and it's definitely not my favorite of the Cassie Clare books, but I still really enjoyed it. Moving into Lady Midnight by Cassie Clare, this is the Dark Artifices, and I've read them. They broke my heart. They were a rough time. I'm gonna put that one. Is that gonna be our first phenomenal? I feel like it is. I think Lady Midnight, the Dark Artifices, is our first phenomenal read. Just the way Cassie Clare wrote the important death that happened in this series also was just, I was grieving. I feel like a lot of us were just feeling all of those like levels of grief, just like a normal human who actually had a human in their life die. I feel like we felt that. Moving into Divergent. Divergent itself is so great, and Insurgent is also pretty darn good. And then Allegiant happened, and it is like throw it out the damn window. So I think with the 3 books merged together, we're gonna have to go with fun and good times. This book brought me to BookTube, so I do have some feelings, but not enough to ignore the fact of Allegiant. We cannot ignore the truth of the matter. Next is Diviners. Oh my gosh, I love this book so much. I love this series so much. Now, okay, remember when I said that if there is a book out that I haven't read yet, then I won't include it? Well, there's a couple on here that I needed to put anyway, because the thing is that I've read more than one of the series, and overall I've really, really loved it, and I have a hard time believing that the one book at the end will really make it tank, like, significantly. So the Diviners, I have not read King of Crows yet. I definitely want to reread the series before I read King of Crows, so hopefully that'll happen. If you guys want to check out, I just posted a rereading books video that has a bunch of books that I want to reread, and the Diviners is in there. I think that I'm going to put this in phenomenal. Like, it's that good. And the audiobook makes it even better because January Lavoie is just so talented. Then we have Daughter Smoke and Bone. Okay, if you guys didn't know, I'm obsessed with this series. I really love Laini Taylor's writing. I just love the way she writes. And this book in particular, we have this huge setting and almost character altogether change happen in the story at some point. And it is so polarizing for people, but I loved it. It made it just go from fun good times to like, yeah, we're having a fun time in, can't remember, Czech Republic. It's set in the Czech Republic. And so it went from just having like this fun, great time in the Czech Republic, which was a setting I've never seen before in a young adult novel, to all of a sudden this other setting that I can't explain. So good. So phenomenal. I'm putting it in phenomenal. There we go. Next, we're going into Game of Thrones. Yes, I read all of these books. I read them before watching the show a long time ago. They are very long and very intense, and honestly, my memories are murky of this story because of the show, which is also fantastic. I think they have to go in phenomenal because like the way that George R.R. Martin writes his stories, they are all encompassing. The whole world is built out. There's nothing that you sit there and read and you're like, but why? Or but how? You know, even with the fantasy stuff, it's all very well thought out, well executed, well planned. So I think we're going to go to phenomenal for this one. Flame in the Mist was a dud. There's no memory about it except that it had really bad sign language. And so I'm going to put it in thank you next. And I don't even want to talk about it more than that. Gatekeeper's Sons was a DNF. I couldn't stand it. It was not good. I am throwing it out the window. Okay. Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. I read the series, and this is one of those ones that I am so mad about because the first book is so good, and then the second one is just like good, and then the third one is awful. And so if we're going with the same way that I did with Divergent, we have to put it in fun, good times. Although I don't know how to put fun or good for the description of this book. It's just intense. I think I have to give it the benefit of the doubt and put it in pretty darn great because this book itself is so, like, light years amazing. Okay, Harry Potter. We're putting it in phenomenal. It's not even a question. Why are we even questioning it? Heartstopper. So I read the first two, and they're so cute, so just heartwarming and adorable, and I love them. But I also feel like there's not really any plot, and there's like nothing. It's just like cute, but there's no story. Well, not enough story. And so I'm going to put it in pretty darn great for that. The Hierophant's Daughter is another DNF. I'm not about it. Just, do we even have to say anything? Same with Illuminae, just right up there. Lies of Locke Lamora. It was good. I had a fun time reading it. The details are murky, and I'll never read the sequel. I'm going to put it in fun and good times. The Line Between is so good. The second one came out before quarantine, and it is about a pandemic, man-made, and just think the thing that happened like right when quarantine started was I started thinking about that book because it's just like I can't believe that we're here, and it is so well done, but like probably really triggering for a lot of people right now, but I'm gonna put it in pretty darn great. It did have its things that were just fine, but a lot of it was really, really good. Cinder, the whole story, so good, so great. I had so much fun reading it. I'm going to put it in pretty darn great, though, because I do think it has some of that 2014-esque, just, like, young adult things that we've grown past. And, yes, it was written at that time, so I definitely give it a lot of a pass. But, like, it's not this, like, classic novel that will, like, forever rule. You know what I mean? Okay, The Magicians. If you've been around this channel long enough, you know how I feel about The Magicians. It is not good. I hated it. We don't even want to talk about it. Let's move on to The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer. I really liked the whole series. A lot of people don't like the third one because it gets really like sci-fi, but I really enjoyed that. And so I'm putting this in phenomenal because, man, I would love to reread it because I don't honestly remember all of it, but like I remember it being really good. Marked. Yikes. Okay, so this book has like 14,000 books in it. The series does. And I've read 6 of them. And I'm calling it enough to be put on this list. When I was reading it, though, it was fun. At some point, I like just gave up because I was like, we're still in it. And it's been so many years. So I'm going to put it in fun and good times. Maze Runner, though, I did not enjoy. It's just so ew. I don't know what I didn't like about it, but I'm putting it in thank you next. But The Mediator is so cute. I just reread it relatively recently and I had such a great time. I'm gonna put it in fun and good times. There's also 1,000,001 books to this series. You do not need to read all of them, but I really liked them. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, not for me. I'm gonna put it in thank you next. This Savage Song. This is my favorite duology. This is my favorite series by V.E. Schwab. Like, this is the one that I think is really underrated. Like, why doesn't anyone talk about this series when they talk about V.E. Schwab? Because for the longest time, I thought that this book was going to be lame, and then I picked it up on a whim from the library just because I could. It is so good, and Their Dark Duet is also fantastic, and I'm putting it in phenomenal because it is. City of Bones is also so great. I do have my issues with it. Why is there incest throughout the whole thing? Well, like, assumed incest. I love Sebastian, but at the same time, ew. There are things that I have issues with, but I'm going to put it in pretty darn great. Nevernight, I feel similarly. I really, 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 really loved Nevernight. And what's the second one called? God's Grave? God's Grave is also really, really great. Dark Dawn was fine. I'm going to put this one in pretty darn great because I do have some really key issues with the romance in these books. I don't like it. This is like the one thing that I get irritated with J. Kristoff with, is that like there's this stigma about female romances because they tend to be catered towards men, and we haven't seen that a lot in like the book genre, but we see it all the time in film, and this book feels like it was written for men. But like at the same time, in general it's not, but like the romance was. I didn't like that. Night World, like we don't even need to talk about, we're throwing it out. It's just not good. And Obsidian. I know everyone like has their own feelings about Obsidian, but clearly I'm gonna throw it out. I hated it. It's like literally Twilight fan fiction, but aliens, and like nobody asked for that. Moving right along to Princess and the Fangirl. It's so cute. I love this series. I know that they're kind of like repetitive. Again, they're chicklet though. Just like total romance, adorable, and I'm going to put it with Fun and Good Times. Percy Jackson. I'm so excited for the fact that we're getting a Netflix adaptation, and I'm going to put them in pretty darn great because the Greek mythology, I love it. Dragon's Blade though, didn't love it. I'm going to put Thank You Next for this one. I did read the whole thing. I didn't hate it, but it felt pretty pretentious. Saga is like one of the only graphic novels that gives me the same level of emotional response as regular written novels. So I have to give it a phenomenal. Moving on to The Seafarer's Kiss. It's like a Little Mermaid retelling. There's some weird abuse in it, but that's like never really addressed. But overall, I really, really enjoyed it. I'm gonna put it in pretty darn great because like it definitely doesn't deserve phenomenal with the issues that I did have with it. The Selection. Okay, I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I'm for sure putting this in the phenomenal category because I read these books in like 4 days. 3 of them. I read them, and then I read the other one, the after one. I loved it. I love it still. It's so great. Sarafina was just fine. I wasn't invested at all. And honestly, I think I'm going to put it in Thank You Next because, like, I don't even know if I would say I had fun reading it. Yikes. Darker Shades of Magic, though, I did enjoy. Read all of them. I think they're overrated a little bit. They are good. I'm going to put them in Fun Good Times. Okay, so Shadow and Bone. I, don't know where to put it because it's not that it's a Thank You Next. Because, I liked it enough to read them all. But at the same time, did I read them all because there was so much hype that I was, waiting for the moment when finally I would get it and love it? I think that's what happened. It's not as good as A Darker Shade of Magic, but A Darker Shade of Magic is in the next level. I honestly think I'm going to put it in Thank You Next. I shouldn't have read all of those. Six of Crows isn't on here because I haven't read the other one, the Kingdom one, the second book. But I did really like Six of Crows more. I think that one would be in Fun and Good Times if I was just basing it off that book alone. Ace of Shades is such an underrated story. It has magic in it, casinos and gambling and gangs. I'm gonna put it in pretty darn great. I really like this series. It's not perfect, it's not the type of book that really settles in with me and I remember it often. Or I remember to recommend it or anything, so it can't be in phenomenal, but wow, I really love this book. Like I mentioned before, Laini Taylor is one of my favorite writers. I really liked both Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares. I didn't see it going where it went, but that is part of what made it so good, and I'm gonna put it in phenomenal. To All the Boys I Loved Before, no. I am not in the group that loves this book. I don't like it. I love the story of the way that they told it in film, but I didn't like it. I'm going to put it in Thank You Next because, it's not horrible. It's not how I feel about The Magicians. But could have done without it. These Broken Stars is another sci-fi novel. Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner wrote it, and these were fun. I enjoyed them, but again, with the whole, like, I don't really remember a lot of details, and with that, I'm going to put it in fun and good times. Throne of Glass, though, it is so good. We have to put it in phenomenal. Like, I know that the first book isn't good, or isn't as good as the rest of them, but like I love all of the twists and turns of the whole thing. It's so fun. Then we have Tithe. Okay, this is a fun one because when I was in high school I read Tithe and I loved it. So good. I was obsessed. And then I reread it and I didn't like it at all. So I think I'm gonna put it in fun and good times to like mix my nostalgia and my current feelings on it. Okay, so listen, Twilight. Do I rate it for like how well I think it's written, or do I rate it for how I feel about it and what it did for the community? I feel like I always have felt like what it did for the YA genre and how I feel about it personally, how so many of us feel about it personally, is really important. So I think I'm gonna put it in pretty darn great and not give it to phenomenal because of the fact that like it's not well written. It's like, I don't know a better story that talks to for young adults, about social expectation and like the glamorization of the fake world. Like, it's so great. So I'm gonna put this in phenomenal. It's deserving, I think. We have Vicious, another V.E. Schwab novel. This book itself is phenomenal. The sequel is only okay. I think I'm gonna put it in pretty darn great because the sequel wasn't like terrible, but I didn't like it that much, but we'll try to even it out. The Wicked and the Divine is so beautiful. The drawing, the art is gorgeous, but the story sucks. The story is awful. So I think I'm gonna put it in thank you next because the art, like, I can't throw away the art, you know? And then Winger, oh, I guess I shouldn't have put this one on here because I haven't read Standoff. Whoops. But I do plan on it. I'm going to put it in pretty darn great and not give it to phenomenal because I haven't read the sequel yet. We'll do that. So this is my rankings, and you can't see them all at once, but going down from Throw It Out, I'm glad that most of my series didn't get so low. Thank You Next does have a pretty high percentage. Fun Good Times. I am such not a reader of like middle of the road books. I either love them or I hate them. And then as you can see, Pretty Darn Great and Phenomenal are really up there. And I do think I know my reading taste well enough to try to like, the goal is always to read the books that I'll love. It's never to read a book that I'm gonna hate because I don't like that feeling. So I'm glad that overall we see more books up at the top than at the bottom. But yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed. That was really fun. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you guys have another tier ranking video you would like to see from me, this was really enjoyable, so I would be down to do another one. And yeah, so let me know in the comments. So please make sure to hit that like button if you haven't already, as well as clicking subscribe if you want to see more. I make videos every Monday and Wednesday on this channel, so I will see you guys very soon with a new one. Bye!